Hey everyone, let's make some galaxy soaps. I'm starting off first with the embeds. First, the glow-in-the-dark mini stars. I'm evening out my two pitchers here. Just have some clear soap in there, pre-melted. And I'm about to stir in some glow-in-the-dark pigment. I've got two different kinds that I'm stirring, which is why I have two pitchers. Glow Blue and Glow Green, both from Micas. These pigments are heavy and settle very fast as you're stirring. So I keep stirring until I'm ready to pour. And I try to allow the soap to get a little thick before I pour. I'm just pouring thin sheets in these little rectangle molds, about 1/8 of an inch thick, maybe a little less or a little bit more in places. I'm just pouring one of each color. And then when they are set up, you'll see I start cutting the stars. So I do try to cut them as soon as they're set up because then the soap remains flexible enough to cut a little more easily. You can still cut it after it's set up and cold, but it just works better when it's still a little warm. These cutters, I just found them on Amazon by searching for fondant cutters, mini fondant cutters, small fondant cutters, and stars. So they were pretty inexpensive. I don't remember how much, but I just searched on Amazon. They are fabulous. They work well for tiny little embeds, and they're a little tedious, but no more so than having to pour embeds or pour a long column mold and then slicing them up. And I sped through it a little bit so you don't have to see how tedious it was. And now, so that's the stars. We're heading toward the planets now. I've got some neon colors. It's just my choice. I prefer these galaxy soaps to be pretty bright in color because the background will be black, as you'll see. I'm adding a little titanium dioxide to each of the neon colors I have. And that just brightens it up a little bit. It also gives it a little opacity. When I'm making the planets, I don't worry as much about totally dissolving the pigment. When I'm doing other types of soap, I do. But in the planets, it gives it a neat speckled look, which I like because it makes it look more like a planet to me. I'm adding a tiny bit of fragrance to the planets, just literally a couple of drops. Because they do take up a decent amount of the soap. You wouldn't have to do that. That's just my choice. As I'm doing these planets, I start with the smallest mold, the smallest size mold, and pour with that as when the soap's still hot. The larger the mold, the cooler the soap, then you get a better swirl. So when they're really tiny, like you'll see in a minute, I'm pouring into the massage bar molds. They still give you a little bit of a swirl even if it's hot. So that's why I start with the smallest first. I have, I don't remember the colors, but I'll put them in the description. Obviously, hot pink and neon pink and neon purple, both from Mad Micas. If I didn't already say that. I just pour a little bit in each of the little compartments there and then fill in with the purple. Doesn't matter which one you pour first. Sometimes I go back and forth a couple of times in those. As you see, I'm drizzling it all over, so it's kind of messy. You'll see later how I clean up that process. And as I'll note a few times in here, any little scraps that you see do get used up. I may make a video later showing how I use those because I do have I just save them all and then use them when I see fit. I did just make a soap using the scraps from this one. So maybe I will put a picture of that in the YouTube community page just to show you what happened to them. And those are the next size up. That mold right there is an ice cube mold or ice ball mold, again found on Amazon. This next little trick you see me doing, is just a little drop of titanium dioxide mixed in glycerin is how I like to keep my titanium dioxide handy. I'm putting a tiny drop, the tiniest you can imagine, on that toothpick and just giving it a teeny tiny swirl. It is not mixing in with the soap. It is also not enough to cause anyone any harm, or to make your soap really super white or anything. It's just a tiny fraction. It gives a really cool little swirl effect that I like a lot. And you'll see me using it later on, that same technique. You'll see me using later on when we put the soap together. These little planets here, you see me making these larger ones. I'm also making planets for another Galaxy soap that I make that's a larger one, Galaxy Adventure. And the ones in the mold to your left, those didn't come out. It was the first time trying that mold. I think I got it at a yard sale, and they just don't really come out round. So I didn't like the shape. I will definitely be using them in something. I still have them in a little baggie somewhere waiting to be used. But the larger ball mold from Brambleberry works extremely well for planets, for my larger ones. So those you will see in another soap coming up real soon, or another video. I think that's the next one in my space themed series that I have coming up. So here we go again with the titanium dioxide and a toothpick. The tiniest amount. You could also use, you don't have to use a toothpick. You could use some type of little art stylus or whatever you choose. I just like the toothpick because it's handy. I don't go through very many of them there. I go through a few here and there, but I had one box and lasting me an eternity, seems like. I swirl it around a couple of times. If you put a large amount, like if you put a big clump, it's going to look kind of gross and it won't be pleasant in your soap. But as a tiny little, not even a drizzle, tiny little swirl, it's perfect. And it gives a really cool effect in some of my soaps. Spritz them all, of course, with alcohol. That's, I think, 99%. And they set up, and here we go cutting them out. This obviously is a little bit more of a complicated soap, not a beginner. I should have said that right at the beginning. This is one of my more complicated pieces. But it looks really cool, and it's really not hard. You just have to plan ahead. What colors do you want to make your planets? These, I went with pink and purple for the video because I was out of pink and purple planets. I keep a lot of, weirdly enough, I keep a lot of soap planets around for the Galaxy soaps that I do. And I had all the other colors. So I just thought I'd try these on film and see. Can you see the little bit of white little dots and swirls on the front of the large planets? I'm not sure if I hold one up to the camera. Yeah, there's a little bit. I didn't get as much of a swirl on those as I wanted. I choose the colors, to me, that if they happen to not swirl, but if they happen to mix together a little too much, it won't matter. So if I used blue and orange, you might get brown if it swirls too much, or if it mixes too much. So because we don't want those colors to really blend very much. But purple and pink, if they blend a little in places, it does not matter. See why I don't like those? I don't know. I should have noticed that before I poured them, but it's got a very flat top to it, so it won't work. I thought I could just kind of cut off the bottom and it would be fine, but nope, it didn't. Here's one of my favorite little tips I do after you see me cleaning the titanium dioxide off of the mold. I think you saw me do it with a larger soap, but I was too busy talking to point it out. I take a knife and, of course, cutting away from me, I scrape away that extra leftover spill from me being a very messy soaper. If you don't know by now, I am a messy soaper. And I probably will never not be a messy soaper. But those little, I promise you, those little scrapings will not go to waste. None of the soap goes to waste unless something really bad happens, but that's very rare. I recommend popping those or these next ones coming up, the little smaller balls, into a bowl or something. As I was doing that, I thought they were going to run away. But they didn't. But they can. They can get away from you. I usually put them into a bowl. I just forgot this time. I like the way the swirls on those came out. I don't know if I show you close enough, but yeah, there. They came out really pretty. And to me, that it looks like clouds over the planet, and really brings the soaps to life. And there you see ones I previously made. Told you I keep a lot of planets around. I've got obviously orange and yellow, and then yellow and bright green. I've done orange and red before. That purple one with the weird little yellow dot, that was kind of an accident, but I thought it looked really cool, so I kept it and decided to use it. The little nubs from the massage bar molds I use for so many things. One of these days I will be doing a video on creativity and how to look at things a little differently and how to get a lot more use from your molds. And I'll show you some of the other things I do with these. I do cut off a little end. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing there. Yeah. Just cut off the flat part a little until it's the size or the shape I want. It looks really messy right at the moment, but it usually goes a lot faster than this and is not quite as tedious as it looks. I usually get a bunch of these done at once. I guess I just move slower when I'm doing it on camera. I don't know. But they look pretty and they make really good little teeny tiny planets. Even they have the flat back, but you won't see that in the soap because you're only going to see the front for the most part unless you're really looking for it. Okay, I've sped up a little here so you don't see me cleaning my scraps and choosing my planets. I do like to pre-plan the colors before I pour anything. It's terrible to start pouring and then find out you don't know what planet goes with which soap. Because I like them to go together well. I think I have a pretty good assortment there. The fragrance I'm using in this one is, I think, Black Raspberry Vanilla. I'll double check and I'll put it in the description. I can't remember for sure. Stirring it into the clear soap now. Temperature is important with these kinds of soap. This is a multi-layered soap. But the other thing that's important as I'm stirring right now is making sure your fragrance oil is stirred in really well. Also that it's a nice clear oil that won't discolor. I always test them first when I get a new fragrance or even the same fragrance from another brand, another company, because sometimes the composition is just different even though they might smell the same. I start off fairly hot with my first layer. And then I let it set up completely on the first layer. I don't know if I can totally explain why in the time we have, but I like the first layer to be really clear. If you think about this soap here, the bottom of the mold is the front of the soap. So I'm doing this one upside down. The larger soaps I do, my larger Galaxy soaps I do, you'll see I do the opposite way. I start off with a background and build it up from there. But the front being at the bottom there, I really like it to be super clear and not have any bubbles or skin or anything. As I get layering, there are sometimes I'm going to get bubbles or a little bit of a skin as I'm adding one layer to another or swirling. And it honestly looks really cool. It looks like clouds within the galaxy or, just looks neat. But if you get some of that in the front layer, then you're going to be covering up something else. And I like it to be very multidimensional. I like for you to see far into the galaxy, so to speak. And I like you to see those layers. That was just a little bit of biodegradable glitter. I'll leave the link. I'm pretty sure it's a Wholesale Supplies Plus one. I'm wrong. Nurture soap. And I just a little bit and a little bit of soap. I swirl it around so that it cools a little. And that way it doesn't disperse as quickly. It still disperses a little, but as you see here by the magic of filmmaking, it's spread a little, but it still looks kind of like clouds, and that's the idea. Clouds or space dust or whatever you want to call it, an asteroid field, I don't know. As I'm pouring onto this next layer, I pour this fairly hot for, which is why I think another reason to have that first layer set up. I really want the layers to stick together. I have a couple of different weird ways to do that. These next layers are kind of all poured in without letting anything else set up fully. You notice I immediately sprayed those with alcohol, and the layer is tiny, which means it sets up fairly quickly. You see I'm setting these planets in to hot, freshly poured soap, and they're not melting. If I poured an inch worth of soap in there, it would not have time to cool off. The spraying down, pouring kind of slowly, and spritzing right away can help everything cool off fast, but still be hot enough on contact to adhere to the first layer. And that's my biggest goal in getting these layers put together, is that they stick together well, and you can see everything. You can see all the embeds throughout. You don't have to make a 5-layer soap, which is what this is. But that's what I like to do. I like to make art soaps. So I like, as I said before, I like you to see the dimension within it. I like for it to look like its own little world. And as you go further in, you'll see I'm adding a ton of little bitty touches to each layer. This is the same type of environmentally safe, soap-safe glitter from Nurture Soap, just another color. It's a hot pink. The other one was purple. I think we're seeing a little bit of a theme here on the colors. And now I'm going to add a little environmentally friendly glitter. I think this one's Mad Micas. And I just do, it looks like a lot more than it is. It's just a tiny little sprinkle. I think I start adding the stars here. Maybe not. Maybe I swirl that around. The stars, you want to make sure that it's not super hot when you do. I always give a spray before I add another embed. Just swirling that around a little. You could theoretically make this soap in 3 layers and it would be fine. But you see, as I said earlier, I don't do that. Oh, a lot of ums today. Wow. Sorry. I'll get better at this, I promise. You could also, if you didn't want to do the glow-in-the-dark stars, you wouldn't have to. This is totally an aesthetic thing, whatever you like. Your choice of colors, your choice of fragrances. Here's a fun technique that I'm showing right now, and this is so simple. I'm just sticking a toothpick into a mica that I like. This one happens to be Blue Moon from Mad Micas. It's an iridescent mica. It shows up white when you're looking at it, but it's a kind of a glowy blue, luminescent blue when it's in the soap. Gives another cool effect. It looks a little bit like a space cloud or something like that, a nebula. Very cool. And then I'm coming in with some stars. Spacing for this soap is going to vary, obviously, by what mold you're using. You could do this in whatever shape you felt like, I guess. The front of this mold is rounded. Not like a full dome, but it's got very rounded edges. You see, and so you see, you'll notice as I'm adding embeds, I kind of keep them toward the center, because the further out they go, they have a little bend to them. And it gives a little bit of a distorted look, which can be really cool too, depending on what look you're going for. Could look like you're in warp speed or something. I don't know. I don't know if you noticed, but when I'm pouring this last layer, it is sinking through a little. It's got a skin on it, but it's not a thick skin. Well, the soap is also getting a little cooler as I'm going, so I pour a little sooner, I wait less. And because I'm not putting large amounts of color in there, it's not really stirring, or large amounts of soap. It's not really stirring things up. It might move the layers a little. It might move a star or the glitter a little, but it still gives you pretty good control. You could use a stick or a skewer or a chopstick and come in and move them where you want while it's still liquid. And I find that even though it's breaking through a little bit, I can still put the embeds further back. It'll usually be enough to hold them up so that you've got that multi-dimensional look. This one I forgot to put a star in because I'm fussy about things like that, and I wanted to have 3 stars in each one. So I went back to put the star in. I have to watch when I'm putting embeds in. I like to watch where I'm placing them, not only so they don't look too bent on the sides when I'm turning it over, and that's the rounded edges, and it does the weird thing with the bending light and all that fun stuff. But I also want to look at what I'm putting it over top of, because like right there, I'm putting it over top of that little purple swirl, and it'll still look cool. Just note that it's going to be there in front of your planet, because you're going upside down. You really just need to be aware of where you're placing things and picture how it's going to look when you turn it over. If I put a planet right over top of a star, that might look kind of funky. It might look great. I don't know. But I don't think I would want to do that. Unless maybe a tiny star over a smaller, over one of the larger planets. That might work. I have one more set of planets, one more set of glitter. Oh, and one more trick. This is where you're going to see me use the technique that I used in the second embed portion, where I made the little swirls with the titanium dioxide in the planets. I use that technique right here in the clear soap, and this is where it shows up a little bit more, in my opinion. When you see the finished products at the end, you'll see where it starts to fan out and look a little bit like a cloud without really mixing in with the soap to a point where it makes it cloudy. It looks really cool. It looks almost like a painting to me, this effect. I use it in a few of my other soaps that you'll see coming up in the future. Notably the next Galaxy soap, but also in my flamingo soaps that I make and a couple other soaps. I use it to make clouds specifically because they look like clouds, look like painted clouds hanging in the clear. It looks like they're hanging in the sky. It looks really cool. So that's where I'm going here, and I'm sorry I'm covering it up with my hand. I will get better at being aware of where my hands are, I promise, or I hope anyway. I think you see this next one coming up pretty good. Yeah, that one I got a little too much titanium dioxide for me, but oh well. It is what it is. Almost looks like a little crescent moon. And there I switched toothpicks because there was too much white on that, and I didn't want it to get too clumpy. And you see me spreading it right into the skin that has set up over it, and it works. When you turn it over and look at that, you'd think, from there it looks kind of a mess, but when that's turned over and has the background on it, it looks really cool. Or at least I think it does. Did I go for more? I went for one more glitter because I just can't ever get enough. You'll see a theme with me with this. Not with every soap, but this is just a touch more of environmentally friendly, biodegradable glitter. I don't ever like to add that when it's really super hot if I'm putting in a soap. That's why you see me kind of sprinkle it in the soap rather than just stirring it in. And here is our final layer, and this one to me brings the whole thing to life. This is your space right here, and this makes everything you've just put, every layer, the mica, the glitters, the planets, the titanium dioxide swirl. This is what makes it all pop, is a really nice dark background. You could do a dark blue, you could do a dark purple, or you could do whatever you want, really. But I think they really pop out against the black. And I use activated charcoal mixed in glycerin, which is also how, I think I already said how that's how I do my titanium dioxide too. I keep them in little condiment bottles because it's really easy to dispense that way. I just shake them up a little bit before I get ready to do my soap, and there you have it. So, and I guess it wouldn't be a soap for me if I didn't spill over a little on at least one soap. And through the magic of filming, they are done. And we're just using that same trick, scraping away the sides before you pop them out, and then you're done. You don't have to. And it doesn't help. It doesn't work on every mold, but any mold that's flat like that and has some flexibility, you can usually do that little trick, and it's just so much easier. Makes the back so much nicer. Here's the unveiling for the first one. And look at that. I love the way these come out. A little blurry. Eventually, I get the hang of doing this. But you see the dimension as I'm moving it around there when the light isn't hitting it. Those little cloud-looking things are the titanium dioxide and the mica. You could just use mica and do this if you wanted to, but the titanium dioxide does something a little bit different. Makes it a little wispier, I think. Oh, I brought that one back. I guess I didn't think I got a good image of that the first time. I was trying to look in the viewfinder of the camera and see what I was doing. I think I was expecting it to autofocus, and it didn't. But you will see close-ups of these in a minute because we're going to show the pictures that I take in my light box, and you'll see that. I think it shows the dimension pretty well when you see them that way. There's that guy. There's the one. See, I thought I put a little too much titanium dioxide in that one, but it could be a crescent moon or just a really big cloud. I love this color palette. I may try some later on with a different color palette, a little bit more cool, a little bit more on the blues end of things. I've seemed to have gone for the pinks, purples, and oranges and greens, but I do have a beautiful blue neon as well that would be beautiful with these. And there's the last one. That one, I think you can see how maybe not, how the titanium dioxide swirls get a little wispy. One of them, I know you see it in the final pictures because I caught it earlier. I saw it just a few minutes ago. All right, I think here we are, ready to reveal. Well, not reveal. I did reveal. Ready to show you the final pictures of these. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out or put them in the comments. If you like to see more complicated soaps like this, I will explain anything I can to you in comments. If you have questions, please reach out. These aren't as difficult as they look. There's the clouds. There you see that wispy look that I love. A little bit swirly. And I thank you for spending your time with me. If you want to see more soaps like this, please let me know. There's the stars glowing. It's really hard to take a picture in the dark. I don't know how to anyway. But if you, again, reach out if you have questions and comment below if you would like to see more complicated soaps, as the beginner series is also going to start soon. Thank you so much. Bye.